Hello viewers, Super GT here. We now have a new circuit in Gran Turismo Sport, Fuji Speedway. Yeah, I know, I'm a bit late to the party, but anyway, let's get things underway around the magnificent Japanese circuit. And first up, Group 4 in the Veyron, Daily Race A, or Weekly Race A. And well, would you know it, track limits are broken once again. So we have a new Red Bull ring, essentially.
Not recording. Are you recording, Crickshaw?
Yes, I am recording. Good shout. I might as well always be recording. I just leave my Elgato game capture on, so if anything good happens, then it gets recorded. Anyway, here we go then. Race A, or race number 1 of the video, Daily Race A. Pole position. So at this point here, following my advice from my previous video, to qualify well, which will help you in the race. Going a little bit deep into turn 1, that AstroTurf there really can pull you off in quite a nasty way if you get it wrong, and I was quite lucky there that the Veyron is a very big boy and it doesn't get pulled off very easily, so I've survived. So pulling around here, round 100R, cool corner this, double apex in many ways, if you get it right I suppose. If you don't get it right then you might only hit one of the apexes or none of them. And then into the hairpin we then approach the more technical section here, although this is the GT layout, so we miss out the very tight hairpins. So this corner here can be a hairpin in the alternative layout, the F1 layout, but I'm going to go wide. I'm going to try to actually keep it on the track this time around. Close attention from the Lamborghini Huracan behind, so this isn't going to be an easy race. Normally when I'm up against B-rated drivers as I am here, things might get easy very quickly, but this time around they're going to keep me close company, so it's not going to be an easy race from here to the end. You may be wondering about my voice. I've just got back from Mexico, so I sound a bit weird. I've got a bit of a cold, but you know, the videos aren't going to make themselves, so here I am. So at the end of lap 1 things are okay. Only 10 people in the race, so I'm guessing this one isn't too popular a choice out of the 3 races on offer this week. Into turn 1, looking for the 150 board, braking just before that. Into the first corner, the Huracan's gone for the move, and I've just left him the space. He's gone a little bit deep though, so I'm going to cut him back and retain our first place. But that's a good thing, I suppose. It bodes well for the race that we have a challenge. You know, I'm not just going to run away with it and have an easy win. It's always nice to be able to have a good fight for the race victory. So grazing the grass there and having to back out, or just making a mistake. I suppose I haven't raced this race as often as many other people here. And into the hairpin, the Huracan's just going to sweep around the outside. I'm just going to cut across though, with the extra momentum to recover my first place. So it seems as though I'm going to make some mistakes here, and if I do, well, the guys behind are right there. We just had a look behind, there was about 3-4 people very close behind, and you can see through this turn, way wide once again. I think it cost me this time around, and just having to go defensive into the next turn. So last 2 corners here, next corner here, very difficult section this. I must admit that I do struggle through these 2, this left and then this right here. It's very weird entries, multiple lines on offer. And you see that I was going for the deep line with a cutback, but it didn't really work. The Huracan up the inside takes the position. I should have the better straight line speed, so I should be able to take this back as I am here. But the final turns there, offering many sort of different interpretations, which makes it quite difficult. And they do open up a lot on the entry, so there's definitely room to go up the inside, just to send one up the inside into those turns, as there is into turn 1 here, although the Huracan hasn't gone for it this time, may be learning from his mistake 1 lap ago. So you see the gap opening up, but there are about 5 people there in very close proximity, so any big mistakes and I will surely be punished very heavily. So I'm going to try not to do that. So I'm going to come back for that second apex here, pretty much where that tarmac little pathway is. Come back to the right hand side, down into second gear, and then back up to immediately into third, and just putting away a little bit ragged on the exit. Guys behind do have a penalty. A couple of guys there with penalties, so that does help, of course. If he does get in front, there's still a chance I can finish ahead before we get to the finish. So taking that corner a little bit better that time. I don't think I'd been brave enough on the apex. So just attacking the corner a little bit more. Sometimes you do just have to attack the corner, really go in. It's the same with turn 3, the left-hander kink. You really do have to attack that corner. And I think that kink there you do have to attack. And then these corners, well, this is where I struggle. I knew that as soon as I saw Fuji Speedway coming up, I knew it wasn't going to be one of my strong tracks. It never has been in any game that's come up before. Never been one of the better ones for me, but that's the challenge, I suppose, trying to get better at it. So setting the fastest lap on lap 3, that bodes well. That's a good sign. Through turn 1. We have about a second gap here, but we're going to continue to the end of the race with high intensity. Try not to let that drop off. You might be comfortable, or fairly comfortable, but you mustn't. If anything, try to slow down and do it differently. It can really knock you off your rhythm. In many ways, you just have to continue pushing in the same way that you were before. If you start dropping off, thinking that you're comfortable, you're actually more likely to make mistakes, I'd say, in many ways. So coming down towards the fast kink into the final sector of the lap and of the race. 1.1 second the gap to second. So looking okay at this moment, although I'd say this is the weak sector for me. Up here into the kink, over the right. Now this is a difficult corner. That one's very misleading. Again, many interpretations for that one. Gap down to 0.8 momentarily, 0.9 now, or 0.8 again, 0.7. So it's hovering around just below a second. Into the final turn. I'm going to take a slightly more defensive line, but there's still room on the inside. It's a very wide circuit, this. And as we come up to the line, plenty of people going wide on the exit. I'm just about going to win this one. It wasn't as easy as I thought it might be. 0.6 the gap at the end, although actually no, 1.8 as they got penalties, the two Audi Titties. Huracan then finishing in second, so a win, which is something I suppose. I don't think there's all the great players in Daily Race A. I think they've all migrated to Race C for this week. And yes, I've migrated myself to S-Class. I'm now part of the SS. So after some disappointing news that I might not be in the SS, actually it turns out that I am. So I'm going to go for qualifying again, trying to improve our time here around Fuji.
Peggy 18.
And yes, that is effectively how you have to do it, because of course the track limits aren't there. So the longest Peggy 18 of all time. But anyway, let's have a quick recap of this race. So second race here, Peugeot RCZ behind, of all cars, hunting down a Bugatti Veyron. Yes, that's how balance of performance works. A Veyron getting hunted down by a Peugeot. But I've seen stranger things, although not many stranger things. So into turn 1, keeping the position, a little bit further round. This is lap 2. Guy coming in for almost hitting in the rear end. He's getting really close. And again, lap 3, deja vu. A bit further round lap 3. At the end, in fact, this is the end of lap 3. Last corner here. Let's see how this goes because, again, close attention from the guys behind. And the race isn't going to be easy. So setting a 42.1 at this point here. Fastest lap of the race at the moment. And the Peugeot behind definitely getting a lot closer than before. So I'm going to move to the right hand side, go defensive. And he's going to go to the left hand side, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to have the inside line still for turn 1, although he's momentarily ahead. Into turn 1, it could be quite close here as I just get back across to keep the position. So forcing them to the outside is the right thing to do, and just about keeping the position into turn 1, or into turn 2 really, as they just drove a little bit wide through the apex of turn 1. But you see it's going to be a very close race. I think a little bit closer than the previous race, as both the Peugeot and the guy in third, the Spaniard, give me close attention, and I feel as though those two cars do have slightly better handling than what I have here in the Veyron. The Veyron, very sort of rigid and stiff, and it doesn't quite turn as well as you might like, although it is a quick car around this track. It does have a very long straight here, so the Veyron does do quite well. So into the kink, taking it nicely, not running too wide. The Peugeot very close, not going to have to go defensive though. And this is where things get hard, because you really do have to make that decision. Do I defend or don't I defend? Because there's so many ways to take these corners, as I've said 1,000 times. So they could really just easily send one up the inside, and especially into this final turn, although I think I do have enough of a margin here going into the final turn. As I do, he doesn't send one. So coming out of the final turn, it looks like we are going to be able to win this race. It was a good race. He did go for the move, didn't quite pull it off, and I think if that ran for a little bit longer, he may well have got past. So things could have been different there, but in the end, coming through to win the race. So 65th victory in Forza mode. In Forza? What am I talking about? In Gran Turismo Sport. So this is where things get a little bit more interesting, I suppose. 11th on the grid. I thought I set a good lap time, but only 11th. This is where the good players, or the really good players, seem to be hiding this week in race C. So the quality of this is going to be a lot higher, presumably, or the general driving ability should be higher. The speed was there. My qualifying wasn't quite up to scratch. So I was actually ignoring my advice from my own race, from my own video, where I told myself, or I told all of you guys, to qualify well, and then I just don't do it myself. Well, here we go then. So through turn 1, started 11th, actually qualified 12th, but someone dropped out. So things got a little bit messy there, a little bit scrappy, but they managed to sort themselves out. So we've all settled into single file now, into 11th. Although looking down the outside now into the hairpin, German going to try to take it back. I'm just about going to take it. Gain another position, gain a further position from someone going wide. You just see how messy it is behind, all manner of cars behind side by side into the hairpin. This is where we have the alternative layout, you can see here. So going through here, definitely an opportunity for things to get very messy, very, very messy indeed. Very sharp corner, the sharpest corner on the track there, that hairpin. And definitely potential for absolute memes, chaos and death basically. But this time around not happening. As I said, the quality of the driver should be higher, although in Group 2 races things do often get very messy, where we're racing very quick and close. Things can definitely take a downward spiral, downward turn. At the moment here, in 9th, up behind Tommy Rotten, well into that slipstream, although this car does bounce off the limiter in 6th. So there's no actual extra gear here. I'm going to try and keep this guy to the right hand side, then sweep across to the left to try to get a better run on the way out. It hasn't really worked out that way, as the Frenchman bit in front kind of gets a slow exit. I don't really have the momentum to go past him. So after all that, Tommy Rotten actually gains the position, going up into 7th, still here in 9th though. We'll try to take a wider line to get a better run on the way out. You see the 1.7 second penalty. If you cut some of these corners, the penalties definitely do punish you quite badly. Notably the kink at turn 3, you can get quite bad penalties for that one. So coming down the hill, we're looking for the shadow pretty much on the way in, and that's going to be your breaking point. And on the way in, pretty much hit the apex, although we did receive a tiny hit from behind, although not really one that's going to affect us too much. So back up the hill. So the battling here quite intense. The Frenchman up the inside of the Austrian, and he retakes him. So a little bit too deep, and into turn number 14, blends into 15, and then on the run up to the final turn, Panasonic corner. And I've taken it a little bit narrow actually. So Group 2, I did about 15 minutes worth of practice, and well, a bit of a argy-bargy going on at the final turn. Someone spins around, no penalties being dished out, so I'm going to have to continue here. In 7th, I'm going to go defensive, go to the right hand side, and like the previous race, going to force him to the outside line. And on the way in, Diddy-da-dude. Around the outside, it looks like a really good move, although he just gets caught on the AstroTurf, gets sucked off hard, and doesn't quite make the position work, or make the overtake work. I thought he was going to make that work, and to be fair to him, it looked like a really good move, but the sucking power of Fuji is clearly strong. Just something about Japanese circuits Suzuka has really strong sucking capabilities, and Fuji is very much the same. So just something about Japan, I just don't know what it is. So anyway, in 7th, things going okay. Started 11th. We've made forward progress thus far. Let's not forget though that this is Daily Race C, so 13 laps here. We do have to contend with tyre wear and with fuel. So there's an extra dynamic into this race compared to the race we were just doing in the Group 4 of Aerons, which is really just about overall speed. So we do have to contend with other things here. And the pack is splitting a little bit, although if you look at the map, you know, this is actually a fairly close race on the whole. First to last isn't too far on the whole. The field spread definitely a lot better in this game than it is on many other games, aka Forza 7 on a typical online race. Let's not forget that this is just an online race, so for the race to be that close, and I know that people are hitting and stuff, you know, it's not too bad when you think about it, given that most online racing games are awful. Here is the awful part though. I've gone for a massive lunge, I broke way too late, misjudged it completely, and well, you can see the result. And I've just come back on. This guy, I don't think he could quite judge where I was going. And, you know, I wasn't trying to cut across him. It did look a bit awkward. But I did try to stay to the left. And, well, you know, obviously it's not the right thing to do to cut across the entire circuit. And my voice is just beginning to disappear completely here, which obviously doesn't help for a video commentary. I'll do my best to survive until the end of the video, though. So a couple of mishaps here. Things not going quite as intended on that lap. Just obviously misjudged my braking point. Although the car really bounced off the limiter, and I thought the car was going slower than it was doing, clearly. So silly mistake. Although we're still here, we can still live to fight another day. You know, 7th. I suppose the battle for 5th isn't too far away. Just about 2 seconds at the moment. Yeah, 2.1 second, 2.2. So things can still change. Only on lap 4, still got plenty of laps left after this one to really try and make a difference. It looks like those two guys are really fighting quite hard. So Selpa 974, the Italian, in 5th, with Tommy Rotten, the Brit, in 6th. So at the end of lap 6, I decided to go for the undercut strategy. I didn't research the pit entry. I did do plenty of laps in the car for qualifying. I didn't actually research the pit entry, so I didn't know what I was doing there. Smashing the wall on the way in. But just about getting through it. I was thinking at this point I'm going to get a penalty for that, because you normally do get a penalty if you strike the wall on the way in, but somehow I didn't. I escaped without one. A little bit too deep into turn 1. It's actually quite close to pit exit until turn 1. You don't actually have to travel that far. Anyway, at the end of that lap, someone spins off. Disaster for that guy. And the rest of the pack decide to go for their pit stop. So I've gone for the undercut strategy here. Go in 1 lap early. You have fresh tyres, you can set a slightly quicker lap than the others who are on older tyres. The main downside being that you have worse tyres throughout the whole next stint. So from here to the end of the race, my tyres will be 1 lap older than everyone else. So to begin with, that won't be too much of a problem, but at the end of the race, it may well be a problem. So down in 8th at this point here, I do believe that the leader at this point here hasn't pitted, so that could go up to 7th. So I might be 7th in reality. But 2 guys behind, I think the gap has opened up slightly because they were quite close behind. And in terms of in front, I think it's about the same. So I haven't really made the most of this strategy. But we'll just have to continue and really see what we can achieve at this point. So Fuji Speedway, it's good to see it as part of update 1.28 at the end of September. It's always good to see new tracks, and we saw Red Bull Ring just a month before. So plenty of new tracks being added. Selpa here, the 2 Italians, going hammer and tong as we go up the hill into the final sector, and they really are not giving each other space. They might both be fellow countrymen, but they aren't really helping each other at all. Selpa back with a savage move, bit of a strong one there. I'm going to take advantage up into 6th. Selpa's going to come in with another move, quite deep on the brakes, using me as a bit of a brake. I'm going to get the better momentum on the way out. He's not going to give me much space on the entry to the main straight, but I just about recover. Still in 6th place here, so the German who was in the lead, we're going to overtake him. So now into 5th, so we have a decent position here. Into turn 1, I'm thinking I'm going to brake on my normal point. He's going to go for the move. Clearly this guy was a bit sort of mentally deranged because, well, he was just making so many silly and daft moves, losing himself so much time. And you can see, about a lap ago, look how far away 4th and 3rd are now. That guy, the Italian, he was pretty much right on their tail about a lap ago, and now he's just absolutely ruined it just by throwing in so many stupid moves. So that's the thing, you can obviously, it's racing, you're supposed to overtake people, but there's a sense that you need to do it at the right time and in the right manner. If you keep fighting too much, you do it at the wrong time, then you lose so much time. You might gain the position, but you're just going to lose a lot of time. So you need to really balance these factors. Sometimes it's better to stay behind, and this is why I often race very cautiously, because I know that if I send the move in, I may well get it wrong. I just want to wait for the exact right moment to do it. So here, at this point here, sitting in 5th, 3rd and 4th not too far ahead. I think the real chance I have of getting up to them is that they get penalties, which is possible, although I'm not really going to rely on that. So this is the beginning of lap 12. The gap was looking comfortable, just sitting over 2 seconds to the guy behind. Of course, I'm still worried about the tyre wear. 4.4 seconds to the guy in front, so there's not much chance of that. This is the end of lap 13 though. Gap down to 1.0 with 1 sector left to go. So the gap did come down, which was quite worrying. And the main point here that I'm trying to make is that my tyres are 1 lap older than most people, because obviously I went in at end of lap 6 rather than 7, which most people did. So I do have to contend with slightly older tyres, slightly worse tyre wear. I've just about got the job done, I think, into the final turn. So you see these guys did begin to catch up. It was very close at the end, but I think I've just about maximised the strategy to come home to finish 5th in the end without penalty in the entire race, which is pretty good. And we're going to come across to finish 5th. So not too bad for my first Group 2 race around here. I think that was perhaps the best I could have got without... Well, I mean, I did make a couple of mistakes, but on the whole, I think that was a decent result, starting from 11th. So there we go. Fuji Speedway added as part of update 1.28 at the end of September. I do hope you enjoyed the video as always, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe for more of the same. I shall see you next time. Thank you very much for watching, as always. Goodbye.